Oh, you got your headphones on?
Got headphones on. Are we rolling?
Oh, looks like we are.
We're rolling. Sweet.
Looks like we is,
Sweet.
as one of the old songs may say. So, welcome back to Faith and Frames.
Howdy.
For all of our visual people,
Welcome to the library.
welcome to the library at Liberty Free Will Baptist Church.
Liberty Library.
Trying something new. Hopefully proving to the world, Jing Shoot Podcast, dang near anywhere.
Yeah, or lack thereof. I mean, you may not have a library.
May not have a library. We do.
We'll see.
We're shooting in it.
Felt cute, might delete later.
One of those things. So we've got a unique one. No guest today.
Just us two boneheads.
Just us two. Not gonna give any unsolicited dad advice.
No.
This time.
Hope you guys enjoyed that episode, by the way.
That was fun. It was fun. I
fun.
was very worried after wrapping that one.
Still
just
am.
thinking like, I really hope nobody takes any advice
From us.
from what we just said, because it's probably bad. I'm
Yeah, where we were watching the playback, and I thought to myself the whole time, I don't know how this guy's a dad.
well. So my whole thing is like, okay, don't take any advice on what I said to do.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to like do the opposite of
Yeah,
what
think
I've
about what I shouldn't do. And
I
do
can
that.
be a model in the sense of I told you what I've done and it's wrong,
Same.
so just don't repeat that. That was, if you got any value from it, maybe that was it. It's really about the only value I think you could have gotten from it. Speaking of value, I'm gonna give you a dad joke. What do you call an angry carrot?
A top head. I don't know.
A steamed vegetable.
I like that one. That's pretty good. That's a good one.
Like that. That's a
Very
keeper.
good one.
That's a keeper. Steamed vegetable. Just thinking of Veggie Tales. There's probably a Veggie Tales book behind us somewhere on the shelf.
I'm sure there's a Veggie Tales book somewhere. Also, Veggie Tales, low key like 90s. Oh, we got Veggie Tales DVDs.
Yeah, we do. It ain't in frame.
It is now for all of our visual listeners. Here we have Veggie Tales Minnesota Cuke.
Wow.
Oh,
Cute.
Larry the Cucumber. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I was a Veggie Tales kid through and through.
I never really got into it. I don't know how I missed that whole phase, but my wife talks about it all the time. And now
VeggieTales
Reese,
was great.
now Reese actually kind of watches it sometimes. So
We had Veggie Tales. You probably also don't remember Bible Man. Remember
I do
Bible?
not remember Bible Man.
See, they have a cartoon Bible Man now that my daughter stumbled upon on the Minnow app. I know a lot of the mothers out there right now are big on Minnow because it's a great alternative to Cocomelon, which is just brain-rotting content.
Yeah. We avoided Cocomelon, much like the plague.
I say Johnny, no papa.
Yeah, those are not good.
Brain numbing.
Yeah, much like
Probably this podcast, it could be brain numbing to you.
There you go. So we got a unique one. We always talk about how progression takes place. And with what we do, and much like other things in life, you have probably never arrived at the destination of expert, or you've never truly got it figured out. Like you should
agree.
constantly be learning,
Can't agree.
regardless of what you're doing.
Yes.
The second you think you're the best at XYZ, fill in the blank,
You're going backwards.
you're going backwards because probably somebody better. And you've got something left to learn. So
Yes.
we are going to expose the crappiness of some of our early photography.
That's going to be a tough one because we both went and pulled some images from our past.
Yeah.
Some of them are very cringeworthy here on this side of the table. I don't know about yours, but
Yeah, they're not good. They're not good. Definitely, I can pick them apart. But that, again, I think that speaks to the growth that takes place.
yeah. Or, I mean, I may have gotten worse. You guys can decide.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I hesitate to say it's worse. It's just, it's definitely things that I didn't know that I now know a little more about,
Yeah.
and things that I would do differently
Nice.
if put into the exact same situation, which is actually something I'd like to talk about later. Always shooting raw. Shooting raw and not deleting your images.
Ooh, okay. We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. First, let's thank our sponsor.
Today's episode is sponsored by us. Jared and Garrett here at Motion Creative Media. Folks, this episode, we are talking digital images, and Jared and I are actually in the process of releasing some digital assets.
Yep.
And what we want to do for our audience, for our listeners, and for our watchers out there, and this gives you guys a chance to put our stuff to the test, we are offering a free video LUT.
Yep. Give a filter.
Yeah, think of a filter.
Like an Instagram filter.
Yeah, like an Instagram filter, or if you're using CapCut or whatever, if you have the Magic AI color tool, you can press that and it'll apply a look to your image. So this is just a look for your video. We're giving it away for free, and it is labeled the Blue Collar LUT.
Yep.
This is something that we designed from a lot of the industry that we worked in, the construction industry.
Right.
This is, again, a litmus test for our listeners, for our viewers. Take the LUT, use it on your footage. I'd love to see some of your feedback.
Oh, yeah.
And would love to see some of your videos that you've colored with it.
Actually works on iPhone even.
It even works on iPhone. So whatever
iPhone
camera
footage.
you shoot on, whatever phone you shoot on, as long as it is a standard profile image, which if you're shooting on an iPhone, it should be.
Yep.
It should work.
There you go.
Yeah.
Download it.
Download it. It's going to be in the link in the description below.
There you go. Sweet. So
Meat and taters, Jared. Get us the meat and taters.
there you go. So I wanna start with something that I read on Threads today.
You're a threader now. I like that.
I don't know. I'm dabbling in it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But so this guy put out it's not a tweet. It's not a tweet. He posted on Threads this morning. And it
Threaded.
said, "Don't let social media guide the way that you photograph." Went on to continue to say, "One day, Instagram will be long dead, and all that's going to matter is the art that you created." That may be hard to fathom, an absence of Instagram, but you don't have to look too far back in the sands of time to think of Vine.
Ooh.
Some of our listeners are going to remember Vine.
Some are not.
I would argue that we wouldn't have TikTok today, which we may not have TikTok tomorrow, but we wouldn't have TikTok today, I don't think, if Vine didn't already exist. Because it was 6-second blurbs.
Yeah.
And it is no longer a thing.
Well, and Vine still has such an impact on TikTok that you now see Vine compilations.
True.
On TikTok, which I love because I was a Vine lover.
Well, you can go on YouTube and search Vine compilations. If you don't know what Vine is, if you're too young and you don't know what Vine is, maybe you missed that whole window.
It was TikToking before TikTok was ticking and talking.
Go to YouTube right now, search Vine compilations, and you will get a great feel. The limit was 6 seconds. You could not have a clip longer than 6 seconds.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it kind of ushered in short form content. And again, I would argue that we probably wouldn't have Instagram Reels because we wouldn't have TikTok if Vine hadn't already laid the groundwork. Point being, though, overarching point.
Yes.
Vine no longer exists. So if you are creating a photo or a video specifically to perform well on platform, fill in the blank.
To get likes and views.
I would ask you to question yourself. Are you creating for the right reason? Because I would say you're not. Because if you think about if Instagram were gone tomorrow, would you still have taken the photo that you posted? You know what I mean? So it's like, are you creating for a platform? Or are you creating because you enjoy the process this particular photo fulfills you? Whatever.
Yeah.
We took a lot of photos, like you do when you start out.
Yep.
Very not proud of them at this stage of my career.
Let's dive into these because I know our viewers are probably just chomping at the bit to see how terrible.
Are we going to mention the elephant in the room in that video, or are we going to table that for another discussion?
We'll table that for another one. We'll keep it photo-centric today.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm ready to rehash.
I'll just say it's out there.
I'm not going to tell anybody where it is. But let's talk photos. And specifically to your first point, I'll go ahead and throw myself under the bus because I am a fan of a particular style of photography. And really, it's more so a color scheme than it is a style. It's the teal orange color scheme, which is very popular in big movies. It's popular, obviously, on social media. However, when I first got into photography, got my first camera, I leaned super duper heavy into it
Most do.
Most do, and
That's a common mistake.
And I was not pulling it off correctly, but I'm going to pull up an image here for all of our audio-only listeners. And Jared, I'm going to show it to you here over across the table. And our viewers can see it on your screen. This is an image that I took in Tellico Plains, Tennessee. I was traveling for the industry that I was in at the time and really leaning into that teal orange look that everyone's trying to achieve right now.
Which the reason teal orange exists, there's psychology behind it.
Yeah, it's the color palette, color wheel.
It makes sense. You've seen it in Hollywood.
Colors.
Like, yeah, it makes sense. However,
everything that Garrett Benjamin Ware was doing at that point in time, though, was teal orange, and I would dare say that my orange was not even orange. It's more of like a cotton candy rose gold type deal.
Right.
But this this particular photo, not excessively proud of for a couple of reasons. And number one reason, obviously, is the color scheme. Did not nail that at all. But you had mentioned something off camera that is also true. Compositionally, I don't know what the heck I was thinking with this image. I cooked the colors, so we've gotten that out of the way. We cooked it. That just means everything looks nuclear and not realistic.
Way saturated.
Way saturated. My blues are like actually almost falling apart. I can see pixels from where I nuked them so much. But also compositionally speaking, my horizon, it's not level now that I'm looking at it again. I'm not really following any compositional rules like the rule of thirds. I have nothing lined up in this image. And
well, it looked like the tower was on a vertical third.
Yeah, it's on a vertical third, but as far as like any intersecting lines, if you're aware of the rule of thirds, and if not, we can talk about that later. This image is just not working. And I know at the time when I posted this, I was like, this is a banger.
You were proud of it.
I was proud of it, and I pulled this image up first because in that moment in time, you mentioned the Threads social media post there. At the time, I can go ahead and tell you full transparency, I was shooting this one for Instagram or for Facebook because I knew it was a popular style at the time.
Yep.
I wanted people to see that, hey, I've got a camera and I'm now newly into photography and I can do this teal orange thing that everybody loves. And now looking back at it, Kylie, this was probably back in 2018 or 2019. So we're 5-6 years later. I'm like, nah, dude, you didn't have it.
Well, so I would kind of piggybacking off of that thread and not necessarily creating for a social media platform.
Yeah.
I will caution any new photographer right now, trends are going to come and go.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, I have technically been shooting photos and editing photos now since like 2016-ish now. So several years. And even in that reasonably short time span, I can name you multiple color trends that are no more.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to experiment because you're going to need to try a bunch of different things to figure out what you like.
Right.
And the quicker you can do that, and the more you do that, or the only way you can really arrive at what I would call your style is to put the reps in. It is to shoot anything and everything. It is to try these editing styles, try to emulate that creator that you really like. Oh, I love the way they process their greens, whatever it is. Try to do that. You will eventually end at the style that you prefer to edit. And from then on out, it's still going to change. It's never going to be like a constant thing, but it's just going to be like subtle refinement at that point.
Well, you dial it in. I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I still love the teal orange color scheme. Yep. It's still, for however many years we've existed, been a complementary color scheme, teal and orange. They go well together. But I've learned how to dial it. I learned how to dial it in. This image obviously is a horrible example of teal orange. And I have another one that I'll show just while we're on this whole teal orange color scheme ordeal that I showed you earlier off camera. Back when I had been experimenting in the auto photography realm.
Yeah.
Folks, this is an image of a car that I owned back in the day, and I was experimenting with automotive photography at the time. I was going to car shows and shooting cars. I was shooting this one out in the driveway at all times, and again, leaning heavily into that teal orange scheme. The oranges are so nuked on this image, Jared. If you look carefully, and for our viewers out there, if you look carefully at this image,
something funky with your brake calipers.
I was going to say specifically with the calipers and the rotors.
Yep.
The brake dust on my rotors, because I had not washed the car at that point in time, is now rose gold.
Yeah.
where I had cranked
Looking like
it
an
so hard.
iPhone.
Looking like an iPhone. I had cranked the heck out of that image. The white car is not even white. It's teal.
Yeah.
It's a teal car now. I can see the trees in the background are like pink red. They're not even orange. And again, the blues from the BMW logo are not even like BMW blue.
Here's the question I would have for you, though.
It's just, I look at this image and this is embarrassing. This is an embarrassing moment in time for me.
Don't let it be embarrassing because now you've grown. Okay, so that's what I would say here.
I hope I've grown.
Well,
'cause that's
so
bad.
I would ask you, did you shoot that and did you shoot raw?
I did shoot that as a raw image, and I know because I actually shot this as an HDR.
Okay.
You're viewing an HDR image right now.
Okay, so my and this is something I'm going to have to rely on the audience to hold you accountable. I want to challenge you to go find that raw image, dig deep on whatever hard
I'm
drive
gonna have
it's
to dig
buried
deep
on,
for that one.
and edit it now
Oof.
with your current skill set, your current
Okay.
style, your current knowledge of all the things of photography and editing.
I think I could do that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how different that looks.
I mean, the composition is what it is.
I think the composition's fine. There's nothing too terribly wrong with that composition.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The colors, though, yeah, I was nuking it. And again, I had two things. I had just discovered teal orange. I apparently had just discovered HDR, which is just image stacking for those of you who don't know. And yeah, I absolutely cooked this. So, very, very embarrassing there. I hope I've improved since then.
So that it kind of, I feel like when most people start into photography, specifically when you start editing images, whether you're editing your JPEGs or you're editing RAW, you're going to typically end up in one of two camps. You're going to end up in the scared to push anything one way or the other,
Or you're going to be HDR teal orange.
or you're going to
hairy
be
over here.
very heavy with this color that you're trying to emulate, right? So there's two ends of the spectrum, and I feel like that's where people typically end up starting out. I started out with the reserved approach. Okay,
Let's
so
see
here's
image
an
number
image.
one from Jared.
Here's an image which, compositionally, honestly, I'm fine with. I have revisited this, and I think it's fine. It's an image of downtown Greenville.
Downtown, yes.
Okay. Again, I erred on the safety side of things. If you notice, even on my phone, this is, and we'll throw this on the screen so that you can look at it, but it is a very neutral white balance.
Very neutral.
So
Almost a little cool.
almost, yeah. I would hesitate and say, yeah,
And it's
too
got a
cool.
lot of blue in the image. There's a lot of sky in there for those of you who can't see it.
I would say that this image, if I were to go dig out the raw file, I would edit this in a completely different style. And I wouldn't be as timid to push some of the hues and the colors.
Well, that one to me, if you had just pulled it out like you did and shown it on the street, I'd be like, oh, it's a JPEG.
It looks like a
very-
JPEG.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
I mean,
reminiscent of a JPEG.
Technically, the exposure's okay.
Right,
Like the
exposure's great.
highlights are there, all of that. The green is very green, like digital
It's
sensors
digital
do.
green.
I would fix that. I would edit this in a warmer fashion.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, you want it to have a warm feel to it. It's
Right.
obviously in the afternoon hours, and it's your hometown, so you probably have warm fuzzies about it.
There you go. So, yeah, you end up in one of the two camps, and it sounds like we have hit both of those entities today. You went really heavy with the coloring first
Yes.
early on, and I was like, I can't push anything, so I'm
You were
not going
afraid.
to. Like, yeah, I was afraid to.
Yeah.
and
And
so
I'm over here breaking colors.
hey, but like what ends up ultimately happening if you stick with it is you end up finding that happy medium.
Yeah. Well, you find a happy medium. And I think one thing, too, that I personally have experienced, and you've just, without even realizing it, given another example, I think both of us now, with every image that I take, I also think about the story behind the image. I can go ahead and tell you, whenever I was shooting the water tower picture and the car picture here, there was no story behind those. I was like, I'm going to blast these, put them on social media, and they're going to get millions of likes and
There you
follows like that, because I was following that scheme that I had seen working. This is why following trends, especially when you don't have a skill set for those trends, probably not a good idea. And I'm a personal example of that. But now we look more at the story of things, because you just said, had I re-edited that image, I would probably do it warmer.
Oh yeah.
And I know you want to do it warmer because you feel warm about your hometown.
Well, to me, it doesn't. Part of editing is you've got to immerse the viewer in how you saw that.
Yes.
And so bringing
it to life.
Yeah, one of the ways that you do that is through your color scheme. For instance, you think of like movies. Mm-hmm. Okay. And these are very like pushed examples.
Yeah.
But like The Matrix.
Yep. Very green.
Very green. Well, it invokes a certain feeling. Yeah. Or you think like if you ever watched the show The Ozark.
Yep. Very blue.
Very blue. Because it's a cold feel, whereas like a Mad Max or something like that, very warm.
And cooked.
And so it's like you can invoke a feeling, and you're going to, regardless if you realize it or not, but like you're going to invoke a feeling based upon the way that you process images. And so like if I wanted someone to see this image today, again, there's probably too much headroom now that I look at it, but this is a small, quaint Appalachian small town that I would want someone to get a warm and fuzzy about.
Yes.
And I didn't sell that with the look of the image. So yeah.
Still, at the end of the day, very good compositionally, and I think the image holds up, even color wise, far greater than my earlier examples did. I didn't even show you this one off camera, but this is one that I definitely want to address because this was absolutely a trend. If you guys haven't noticed by now, Garrett, whenever he first started, was trying to follow some trends. For our audio-only listeners, this image that I'm now showing to Jared and our viewers is an image within an image. This was a trend, I believe, back in 2018, where everybody was removing the lens from their camera and shooting through the lens with another lens. And if you can't see it, that's probably hard to fathom. But again, Garrett was hopping on a trend, and there is nothing about this image that invokes any sort of feeling other than what in the heck was I doing?
Well, I mean, so art's always, it's subjective for sure. Story-wise, that's a difficult one to even historically, attempt to.
Yeah, I think in the middle of that image, there's like a propeller, a gigantic boat propeller. I think I was at Norris Dam in Knoxville, again, was traveling. Saw the propeller. I was like, hey, I can shoot this propeller inside of the lens of another lens. I guess one thing that you could say without even doing it, I was following a frame within a frame mentality.
Yeah.
Again, didn't know that I was doing that, but it's a frame within a frame, poorly done at that. A lot of ugly hand in there. Yeah, this image just does nothing. And this was actually a point in time where I didn't really push any colors. That also looks like a pretty standard JPEG with some crappily applied vignette.
Yeah, you're kind of scared too. Like you really are. So like especially here's the really cool thing about raw images. And for all of our photographer friends, they're going to understand this.
Yes.
But a raw image, we're not just using that as like a crappy adjective. It is the raw output of what the digital sensor saw. And what that means to the person who's never saw a raw image, maybe we should put it before and after somewhere, but like what that means is it is very grayscale even. Like most of the saturation's removed. A lot of your colors are nowhere near the true color.
Right. But the information is a whole lot more.
You've got way more flexibility. With all of your colors and your white balance, all those things, you should certainly shoot raw. But when you first start editing raw, you saw the before and you see where you took that image to, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have arrived at the destination because the transformation is so vast. But it takes years and well, it's different for everybody, but it takes time to get to the point of you're like, that wasn't a finish line.
Right.
Yes, it's a drastic transformation, but that wasn't the finish line in the sense of all the colors and that information. And so, like, that's something that's really, like I said, when I first started out shooting raw, that image, I can remember the raw image being so like far in between that destination of that
finished
and I'm like,
straight out of camera.
Oh my gosh, I've already done so much to this. There's no way I can do more.
It's gonna fall apart if I do this.
I cannot push this green anymore. Like it's just I can't do it. And so, and this looks so much better than the raw image. It's done. you know? And so I feel like that happens a lot. And I'll even say this, like I can see that in people who are like beginning their photography journey. I'm always hesitant to like reach out and say anything because it's one of those things where I feel like you're going to learn on your own. If you stick
when
with
you
it.
have to learn on your own.
But it's like I see that with even people who are just now starting out in photography. It's like they're in that camp of afraid to push it. This looks very standard.
Or they may still be in the camp where they're shooting JPEG. Like they
possible.
may not even realize what RAW is.
Yeah, and so it's all part of the journey, and it always cracks me up to look back at old images. So if you notice, the second image is a completely different genre and style, which I would also recommend when you first start out. Literally shoot anything and everything.
Yes,
all the styles.
Absolutely, you got to find what you like.
Yeah, you got to find what you like. Maybe you're destined to be a sports photographer. I can tell you if this was what
maybe
I was.
You're a bird photographer.
Maybe shoot everything.
You're on your way to Nat Geo.
Shoot anything and everything because you're going to learn. Like I really don't like shooting waterfalls. Or I really don't like working with subjects, and so portraits are not my thing, you know? So it's like you're going to learn those things, but you're only going to learn those things if you do everything. And so like
dialing it in from there.
Here's an image. It's my little sister. It's her 8th grade night.
Okay.
At Chuggy Oak Middle School. It's basketball.
Woo!
Basketball. There is nothing great about this image. First off, I cut her foot off.
Which, I mean, she was probably moving pretty quickly.
In 8th grade, probably not.
Probably pretty slow.
No, she was fast, but I mean, again, it's 8th grade, and I had all the room. Like, there was no reason to have chopped her foot off. First off, so compositionally, processing wise,
you still look pretty scared.
Very scared to do anything. The other thing, and this is something that you are so scared of when you start manipulating that exposure triangle. I was so afraid of bumping my ISO so that I could have a higher shutter. If you notice,
don't want noise.
If you notice, that basketball is not frozen.
No.
It's blurry.
Yeah. You were shooting pretty slow shutter speed.
It should
not.
Well,
her hair's blurry too.
It should not be. With sports photography.
Unless that's a mood you're trying to sell.
Look at any Sports Illustrated images though. Like,
yeah, those are pretty crisp. Those are pretty crisp.
The goal of that photo is to freeze that moment in action. So, I was afraid to raise my ISO, which I was afraid for good reason, because you always hear, like, if you raise your ISO, you're going to introduce more noise, and noise is bad, right? Like, you don't want noise. Once it's in there, you can't get it out, all these things. So it's like, that was why I was afraid of it. I was afraid of that monster in that closet.
Yeah, we hear all those horror stories.
But you've got to, specifically with indoor and sports, and most gymnasiums are lit so poorly. If you're going to freeze that action,
you're going to have to raise the ISO.
You're going to have to raise that ISO.
Or get a faster lens.
Well, even still, like, that's going to present its own challenges from a focus standpoint. Like in AF, you know, like, is your camera able to keep up with that subject?
A lot of limitations with either of those.
Yeah. So in that particular instance, I was way too afraid to push the ISO. If I had to go back and look at that raw image, I would say the metadata would say that I probably didn't go above like 800.
Right.
Which
your shutter speed was probably like 1/80.
Yeah, I mean, way too slow for what I was trying to do.
Yeah, when her hair's moving at that point in time and the hair's blurry, you're probably pretty slow shutter speed.
Just, you know, things that you learn. And then again, edit wise, there's nothing wrong with it.
I'd say it's a standard. It looks like a standard profile.
But it doesn't. There's nothing about this that I could say, yeah, that's a Jared image.
Right.
It does not. Yeah, there's no style to it.
But at the end of the day, like, I guess one advantage to that versus like what I'm looking at over here on my side of the table is like you're able to slowly walk yours in. Like, mine totally have to be redone to even be postable nowadays because they're.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't post that either.
I like cooked it like a well done leathery ball glove steak.
Yeah, you can't uncook the steak, right?
You can't uncook the steak, so I now have to like start from scratch if I can even find those raw images, which you've challenged me to do. So yeah, I cooked it hard at the beginning. It looks like you had more of a walk-in progression with your editing style.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think there's advantages to that. You don't have to look at these and
Well,
hate yourself.
neither of which are at anything that I would consider finished today.
Right.
And so that's kind of the ultimate overarching theme of today is like, look, I took this image and I truly remember being very proud of that image.
I was
like
stoked
I
for
sent
these.
I showed these to my little sister.
Yeah.
It was her 8th grade night. And she, like, everybody in the family loved them, which I don't know, maybe that was false, like, pump ups, so to speak, because it was family.
Yeah.
But no, I remember being very proud of that image.
Oh, yeah.
And really thinking like I had done something with that image.
Yeah,
and,
Kyle, get your phone out. We're going to dial up SI right now.
I mean, it was, but again, it just speaks to what I'm going to refer to as growth.
Yeah, your image right there is probably far closer to getting featured in Sports Illustrated than mine is to getting featured in Motor Trend. I'll go ahead and say that. Go ahead and say that.
We'll see.
So we started making a progression though, and we've bashed a couple of these images, and I do want to talk about the progression that took place specifically with my photography, because this is an element of my photography that still shines through to this day.
Yep.
Obviously better at it now than I was back in the day, and still continuing to dial it in. But I discovered something, and this even translates into my video work, that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
I found mood.
Okay.
And what do I mean by mood? What I mean by mood is a darker, more contrasty image.
Yep.
And the image that I'm going to show you guys here for our viewers, and then Jared across the table, this was an image that I took out near Wares Valley, I believe, in Pigeon Forge. It's an old schoolhouse.
Okay.
The day itself was already very moody. It was about to
overcast.
Storm. Yeah, it was about to storm that day, actually. Came a big storm. And I shot the image, and I remember looking at the raw, and I was like, dang, this is already pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I started editing it, and I kept getting darker and darker and darker. I started out warmer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, that's too happy. So I brought it back to a more neutral white balance, but started pushing blacks a little more towards black and more contrast. And so I fell in love with mood. And I think this is the image that did it. But again, this is an element of my editing style that still shines through today.
Yeah.
Where with this image, I was like, I think I'm finally getting the hang of this a little bit. Like, this image is nothing great. I'm not going to print it, and I'm sure not going to try to sell it to anybody, but I found a style that I really wanted to lean into. And that's to your point that you made a little while ago. You eventually find those styles that you like, and you just start honing it in. So this was one image where I was like, yeah, I can look at this today, and although it's not my best piece of work ever, I'm happy with it.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like,
starting to figure things out.
yes, this was a learning point for me, where I discovered a style that I liked, and then I could cut away at maybe the heavy teal orange looks a little bit, and focus more so on the mood.
Well, so specifically with overcast days, it is really, really, really hard to do warm.
Yes,
because it
doesn't make sense.
It quickly affects way too much of the image.
Yes. Well, and it doesn't make sense.
It just doesn't make
subconsciously either. If I'm seeing storm clouds, why the heck would I be seeing a warm
why would it
image?
feel like a warm sunset, right? So there's, again, another thing that kind of speaks into the story.
Yeah.
And invoking the feel that you would want a viewer to feel from that
does
image.
This image make sense?
Right. I would agree with that. I need to go back and find this image because this was from 2017 when my wife and I went to Washington, D.C.
Ooh.
I took some decent images in there going back, but processing not on point as the youngsters would say. This is an image of the back of the White House.
Nice.
Very, very close to dusk. So like that's part of the reason why everything fell blue.
Yep. Very, very blue image.
Compositionally, I had figured some things out.
Yeah,
I realized what I liked.
Compositions there's great.
I enjoy this. Everything's level.
I dare say you even started cooking your colors a little more.
I did.
Started pushing them bad boys.
And but here's the thing. I need to go back and find this image. It's too dark overall.
So we can't see the detail in the trees at all.
Can't see the detail in the trees. And color-wise, it's just the white balance is just not where it needs to be.
I would dare say that would look great black and white.
It does look great black and white. I've got it. Black and white.
Okay.
But specifically, I would like to challenge myself with the color aspect of this one because I think I think this one could be a pretty cool image.
Yeah, I like that. Compositionally wise, it's great. The White House is obviously being led to with your leading lines.
Yep.
We can tell it's the subject. Very good. So what year was that though? What year did you
2017.
2017. So you had started discovering a few things in 2017.
Yeah, I'll show you an image that was also in 2017 that I would change very, very, very little if I had this raw image in front of me today. Sometimes you just kind of get things right. If anything, I would probably simplify the scene a bit.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot going on.
Oh yeah, the highway.
Yeah.
With
So
the bridge.
that's
And I would even probably move the bridge over closer to a third a little bit.
Yeah, so like I would change very little processing wise. I had started
I like
to
that
get
image.
my style.
Yep.
Now I would probably push a little more cool into the shadows and maybe a little more warmth into the highlights. So like just furthering the differences between the two.
Man, the mountains back there look beautiful though, where the clouds are over the top of them. So you got that shadow on top of the mountains. For audio only listeners, this is a local bridge and highway near where we live in Tusculum.
So like I would now throw a mask on that. There's a shadow capping the mountains on.
Yeah,
like, and
that's what I was
there's just
referring
not
to.
there's not enough contrast
Right.
to show.
So I'm
the
saying
shadow.
I like the shadow up there, and,
Yep.
and it's a very cool element because it outlines the top of the mountains all the way through the image. That's cool.
I'd started to find my color style. I still prefer a little more true to life.
Yep.
Green and yellow than you do.
Yep. I kind of mute mine a little bit.
Yeah, you typically remove more of that, and heck, this is something that I could talk for days about, like eyesight. Your eye may be more sensitive
It could be.
to the orange spectrum,
be.
and that's why you're like, no, this feels right.
It could be.
Whereas I'm like, no, it needs more. You know, so it's like it's one of those things. But like for green specifically, in our area in the spring and the summer, and all the way up until the foliage changes in the fall, is very green.
Yes.
All of our trees are deciduous.
green.
Everything's got green grass.
That's probably why I mute them a little more too.
Digital sensors do not handle that pigment well. It literally looks nuclear. It looks like
It looks like slime.
it does. It looks like a
slime green.
radioactive slime. You
Ninja
know,
turtle green.
and so again, I would change very little in this particular image.
Yeah, you could print that today and people would probably buy it.
I don't know about all that.
It's a good image.
But
Very good image.
But I had started to figure some things out.
Yeah.
And my style is very similar to this, still to this day.
I was going
And
to say that looks like a recent Jared image, and you're saying that was 2017. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you found something that you liked pretty early on then, and kind of stuck with it, and you've honed it from there.
I would change some colors and stuff. And again, I think the scene is kind of busy. In some instance, maybe there's too much road in it. Mm-hmm. But overall, I mean, again,
like
you start walking these things in.
Yeah.
You start figuring out what you like. Like one of my favorite photographers to follow on YouTube and
Short stash.
Oh well, yeah,
Is
that
it
guy's
Short Stash?
nuts. No, it's James Popsis.
Oh, I love Popsis.
He's in England, I believe.
Yep.
But travels all around the world, and his whole thing with shooting photography is he wants to blend the worlds of man-made objects and nature.
Yep.
He's not a nature photographer. He's not a street photographer, but he likes to find man-made elements. So like even light poles to him.
Yeah.
Whereas like I would see it as like maybe an eyesore. He's like, no, this is a story of how man has interacted with this scene, and I'm going to highlight these elements. And so like he finds the perfect blend of man-made objects and nature.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool style, but that is his style. That is his thing. He learned, I'm not a car photographer. James could take great pictures of cars.
Right.
He could take great portraits.
Yeah.
It's just not what he does. And so like, it just kind of furthers like one of our points that we made today is you've got to find your style and what you enjoy shooting. Now, there are people who exclusively shoot cars.
Yeah. Automotive photography is one of my favorites. I don't shoot a lot of it, but I love automotive photography.
Right. So that's a thing. Now, could that person technically shoot portraits? Absolutely. It's the same thing. You've got the same three variables. It's exposure triangle, working a camera is working a camera.
Right.
But they have found that they enjoy and prefer to shoot that style.
Yeah.
I I haven't found my subject matter that I like. If I have anything, it'd be a really loose interpretation and description. But like, I prefer like what I would brand as documentary photography.
Yeah.
I want to basically be this fly on the wall, whether that's in street photography, covering an event, photographing a job site, whatever. I want to be this fly on the wall that's letting things unfold.
Yep.
And my job at that point is to nail exposure, nail composition, and evoke some sort of emotion.
Because the story's already in front of you.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a great portrait photographer because posing is something that I'm weak at.
Yeah. Same.
And it's like, I know what I want to see, but I don't know how to verbally tell you what to do, you know? So it's like I get kind of like anxious in some of those situations. So
I strictly run out of ideas.
well, I mean, so there's that.
There's only so many ways that I can pose you right
But
here.
I've worked with other photographers who like, oh, that's their strength.
Well, look at Melissa. We've had Melissa on the show before. Like, she's a phenomenal portrait
Same with the
photographer.
nuns, like in
Same with
weddings.
Jessica.
You know, like when
Bonnie.
they're posing, it's like they are so good at that.
Yeah.
And it's like, whereas I just want to be that fly on the wall. And it's
Yeah.
like, you guys tell him a joke or whatever, and I'm going to capture this this candid laugh.
I was
You know
going to
what I mean?
say it's more so it's a difference in process, like actual shooting of like they are making an image.
Yeah.
You know, they're making that image happen versus like when you're documenting, you're literally taking. You're
Now,
taking that information in.
I end up with a lot more throwaway images
Right, we have throwaway images, but
because it's like, okay, this just didn't.
the story
didn't
is
pan
already
out.
there. Yeah, the story's already there. And, you know, for me specifically, like I find my style to be a blend of like street, and I'm just going to call it mundane everyday life.
Yep.
Like, I love the mundane things.
Yeah, you shoot trash cans.
I literally shoot trash cans. I love trash cans. They're fun to shoot. They don't talk back. I don't have to pose them. Like, it's pretty easy stuff.
There you go.
Gas stations, another one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys followed our story over the past couple of weeks, I actually got heckled by our local police officers for shooting gas stations on a very rainy night at 11:45 p.m.
Interesting.
Because I love gas stations.
It is a bit sketchy behaviorally.
I was in all black, and it looked like I was scoping the place out. But
yeah, not a good look.
not a good look, but we had a good laugh. I told them about a very crappy podcast they could listen to if they needed to get through their shift.
There you go.
We had a good time. But yeah, I like the mundane, everyday lifestyle / street photography stuff. And then, you know, I throw in a few portraits here and there whenever people actually ask me. Then obviously we do what we do for a living. But one image too that I'll show, and it actually is a portrait. This was of our friends Josh and Brittany. This was probably one of the first like couples sessions that I ever did. And this is another element that still shines through in my work today, and that is more of a muted look.
Yeah.
This is where I discovered that I liked muted stuff.
Right. I know that is fall.
Yeah, it's fall. The greens, though, I've dialed them back. The yellows, obviously, I've dialed back because her shirt was like a mustard yellow. Now it's more of like a desaturated mustard yellow.
Yep.
Blacks are raised a little bit, and that was pretty popular back then too, was raising the blacks. But I realized through this image, and again, I'm still pretty proud of this image today. There's some things that I would do differently.
Yeah.
But the style still bleeds through in a lot of my like
Current work.
The muted tone. So very proud of this image. And again, this was just the progression that I finally started making, you know, color wise of, okay, I kind of like those muted tones. I like the contrastier image. I like a darker image because this is for a portrait session, a decently dark image. It's not what I would call moody by any means, but
it's not moody,
darker.
but it's not like, you know, your high key, bright and airy style either. You
But
know, there are people who do that and do that well and lean into that.
Yeah, this was not a bright and airy portrait.
Well, but I don't know that I would. so that I guess that's kind of always the goal and the wish and the desire. At least as you continue your photography journey, if you stick with it, like you're gonna want people to essentially work with you and book you based upon your style.
Yeah, they got to know you for something.
They got to know you for something. And the perfect world is when the client comes to you and is like, I want your style. Like, I'm wanting you because of your style. So, like, it's difficult when someone will say, hey, I really like to work with you, but I would really prefer you to edit these images in this
like
style.
This,
And it's like, that's not what I do.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that I can't do it, because
Right.
again, it's just a matter of preference. Technically, once you hone those skills in and learn how to operate,
Yeah,
your
we
camera,
could do any look that we
you
want
could
to.
do any look, but it's
I
like,
think we're better stewards though
yeah,
if we don't and send you to the person who does.
yeah, it's like, okay, look, I'm not your bright and airy person,
Yeah.
but
I know the person.
these 3 photographers are.
Yep. I
Reach
think
out to
one,
them.
I think one that comes to mind that I know has the style dialed in is, I'll take Bonnie, for example, one of our local portrait photographers. Bonnie's style, whenever I look at it, it just invokes this sense of nostalgia. Like it's very film-like,
It is.
actually. Her images are very film-like, which obviously I love shooting
Right.
film, and that's another topic for
Yeah.
another day. But Bonnie's images are so nostalgic feeling, and I love that about what she does. I'd like to actually have her as a guest.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has that style, and I know that people go to Bonnie because they want that.
Yeah.
You know, they want that with their portrait photography.
Well, so this is kind of how I ended up at the. I'm not going to call it a destination because we opened up by saying that you're never there.
Yeah.
But like where I'm at today, this is how I've gotten here, specifically with photography that someone has paid me for. My whole thing is like I have tried so hard to stay away from trends.
Yeah.
Simply because I'm so, I guess to a fault in some cases, forward thinking in the sense of like when these people's grandkids look at these images.
Yeah.
There was a phase. I'm going to call it the Oompa Loompa phase. Neither of us.
He said
neither of us dabbled in that water.
Thank God we didn't.
But it
dabble with
happened.
Oompa Loompa. Yeah.
It happened, and there's still some of it out there today.
Yeah.
But like it was very common. And what I mean by the Oompa Loompa is like green is almost gray,
Yep.
and
People looked like Donald Trump.
there you go. Like
They were
Oompa
orange.
Loompa. Watch Willy Wonka.
Yeah, they were orange.
So like that's a phase.
Yeah.
I know 30, 40 years from now, when that image surfaces at the family table or whatever, they're going to be wondering, what in the heck
Yeah.
happened here, Mama?
All you pumpkin latte lovers out
Oh, sweetheart, that was just the style. You know, so it's like, okay, I've tried, and I know there's going to be.
there. We have our PSL and our Oompa Loompa look going on.
I have tried to model my photography after something that I'm hoping is
Yeah.
kind of timeless, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't lean too far into a trend. Now, I've started to sprinkle my style in there,
Yeah.
but like my style, I've tried to model after something that I'm hopefully going to be timeless, right?
I think both of us nowadays, like I really like to try to emulate film because
There's a reason why.
Film's like the most timeless.
Absolutely.
It's the most timeless, and I love it. And obviously now that we're both film shooters as well, like I want my digital image to look like that.
Well, and so honestly, this could be a totally solo episode on its own. Everything we've talked about today
Yeah.
has been talking about color images
Yeah. Color images.
and processing and styles and trends and finding you, right, through color. I have this thought that black and white
Ooh.
may be the most pure form of photography.
I think Leica Camera Company would agree with that. And Leica, if you're out there, I can't wait till you sponsor the podcast. Send us a couple of N10 or M11 monochromes.
There
and
you
we'll
go.
put that to the test.
Well, so black and white, if you nail exposure, the viewer has one thing to do. They look at the subject.
We're going to plate that because that's going to be another episode.
You remove any distraction.
That can get really deep really quickly.
Black and white also can save some
Some bad colors too.
where you've got like just
Black and white's a hero.
well, it can be like if you've got a
Yeah.
situation where you've got 14 different colors of
Yeah.
lights.
You might like the comp, but the colors are bad.
Case
Yeah.
in point, go shoot a concert. Seriously, go shoot a concert
Let's shoot a wedding reception.
where there's a bunch of RGB lights and everything else, and it's difficult, right? It's difficult because from a white balance standpoint, it's like, well, what do I do?
Yep.
If I do this, this looks like icy blue.
Yep.
If I do this, this is like super red. And
It's
so
magenta now.
and the red light hit the bride's skin, and
Yeah.
now this looks like a
She looks like a tomato.
tomato. Black and white, that sucker.
Can't tell it.
All you have are luminance values.
Yep.
That's it.
Whites and blacks.
That's
Shadows
You have the
and
luminance.
highlights.
That's it. So it's like, yeah, I could.
I do want to have a black and white episode.
could-
Maybe
I
we
could-
shoot that episode in black and white.
Wow.
Now
Okay.
we're getting introspective here.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that could be something.
We'll shoot an all B-dub episode for you guys.
Ooh-wee.
So do you have any more images?
No.
Okay.
I've got more, but I won't bore the.
We might sprinkle them on the Instagram one day. If
They'll probably not
up the courage.
They probably won't be on the motion page.
So really, the overarching theme of this episode, was so that we can bash ourselves and publicly humiliate ourselves with our past work. More importantly, though, just to encourage everyone out there that may be beginning into photography.
Yeah.
Maybe you just got your camera yesterday. Maybe you're still shooting on your phone. I don't care what you're shooting on as long as you're shooting. But just to encourage, like, everybody starts at a 0.
Yeah.
You guys have seen my 0 was a pretty hefty 0.
Yeah.
Not proud of a lot of the things that I shot in the past, but I've improved. Hopefully have improved.
Well, you've learned things and you've progressed.
Yeah, I've progressed and learned things that I do like about styles, that I don't like about styles, maybe things that we do like about the subject matter.
Right.
So regardless, we've been on this journey now for quite a few years. You're dang near 10 years into it.
Yeah.
I'm getting close-ish to that.
Yeah.
I think 2017. So yeah, almost 10 years, about 7 for me.
The thing is like you've never reached that destination because that destination doesn't exist. And so you're constantly going to be learning things. And I think it's very, very, very important. And I would enjoy to sit down and talk with somebody who's maybe not figured out their style.
Right.
You've got to learn how to interpret an image. For instance, if you have a photographer that you really like, you love their style. You love the way they compose things, they expose things. You love their color processing, all these things. Understanding the why. That's a skill that you slowly develop.
Yeah, understanding why you like it and then how it works.
At first, it's like, oh, this is visually appealing to me.
Yep.
I want to emulate that. But then you've got to figure out to your brain why that works to you.
Why it's appealing.
Why is that
and how
appealing
you
to
can
you?
accomplish it.
And so I really would. The understanding the why that you like photographer XYZ's images, I would love to help somebody figure that out, because that's something that I can now do. I can now look at people's work and say, I like the way they did those greens.
Why it works
and now
me.
I understand, like, I know how they achieved that.
Yeah. Also, for our listeners out there, I would love to see some of your work.
Yeah,
whether it be in a sit down, we can go have coffee and talk about cameras and coffee, or if you guys want to send us some of your images via the social platforms, DM us.
Yeah, if you're
want
like
any sort of feedback,
if you're starting out and you're like, hey, this is a set that I just did for XYZ.
Yep.
You know, help me improve it.
Yeah.
Or what would you do differently, or what do you see that maybe I can work on? I had a mentor. I had a mentor when I started photography, and he was a studio portrait photography out of Dallas, Texas, and he helped me so much. And I don't know how he looked through some of my first sets that I was proud of and sent to him. Some of my Lightroom catalogs I sent to that man. The feedback I got, truly bless him, because the feedback I got was so soft, but it had actionable things that I could do to do better.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's literally a learn, make, repeat process. And I do not joke when I say I look back at work I did 6 months ago and see tons of things I would do differently.
I look back at stuff I shot yesterday and say that.
We pulled deep images.
We did. These are from 2017.
But I want you to understand
2018.
I shot things in 2023.
Yeah.
That I would do way differently today.
I shot things in yesterday.
There you go.
So we've issued a challenge to our viewers. I'd love to see those images.
Yes,
Send them to the DMs, Facebook, Instagram, email.
Absolutely.
Whatever your preferred platform is. And in return, Jared, there are some things that our listeners can do for us.
Yes. Leave us a review. Comment if this is something that you'd like to see more of, because I assure you, I've got more crappy work I could critique.
Oh, yes. Hard drive's full.
We could even do this on the video side.
I think we should do it on the video side.
We could do this on the video side if this is well received, if this is something that the viewers are enjoying.
Yes.
Leave us a review.
We read them all, good and bad.
All of them.
And
until then,
here's the
stay
hard part.
safe. Enjoy life. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Y'all have a good one.
See you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.